A year ago, on August 31st, 2023, One Piece the live-action series dropped on Netflix. It's hard for me to believe those words as they're coming out of my mouth. Really? Only a year? It's nuts to think that I've only been a hardcore fan of One Piece for just 1 year. But this started me thinking, what better time for me to talk about this incredible story, this amazing world, this crew of beloved characters, than a year after I began my personal journey as a fan. I never thought I would try to make a video like this, talking about something that isn't anything to do with Tumblr, or even related to Undertale or Deltarune. But after my whole summer break, I figured this would be a great time to reinvent myself, sort of like a new season or era in the Bettina Levy channel. I'll keep making the classic videos I know you all love to see, but I also want to experiment and try new video formats, reach a new audience, and share about the things that bring me joy, so that I can pass that joy on to others. I don't know how long this video will end up being. I'm not used to writing video essays. I don't know how I'm going to edit this thing either, if I'll be able to use the music, or if this video will be monetizable or what, but I don't really care. I'm just going to try this and see what happens. Also, I'm not used to promoting myself much either, but I might as well do it while we're near the beginning of the video. If you want to support me in the channel so I can keep making videos that bring you joy, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And don't forget about ringing the bell so you get notified when I upload. Anyway, ever since I caught up with the series 3 months ago, I have inevitably been drawn to watching videos of people talking about their experience with One Piece, their journey as a new or old fan, how much the series has come to mean to them, how it changed their perspective on life. I hear the clear joy in their voices, and so I felt like adding my voice to the choir. Maybe this video will attract other One Piece fans to my channel who are curious to hear about my story. But also, it's true what they say. One Piece fans eventually turn into pushers. So I'm also making this video in the hopes of somehow convincing you to take the plunge like I did. Whether you know about One Piece and are hesitant, or have no clue what I'm talking about. I'll do my best not to reveal the story for those not yet fans, but I might mention a couple small spoilers. You have been warned. Without further ado, allow me to talk about One Piece. What is One Piece? To put it briefly, it's a manga series created by Ichiro Oda, or Oda-sensei as fans sometimes refer to him, way back in 1997, before my little brother was born. It must have been quite successful because it got adapted into an anime merely 2 years later in 1999. 25 years later, both the manga and anime are still going on to this very day. And even though Oda-sensei has told us that the story has officially entered its final saga, it still feels like it'll be a handful of years before he's truly finished with it. You've really got to admire the guy, the fact that Oda has been telling the same story for an entire generation, and still isn't tired of telling it to us, and is still giving us surprises and plot twists we never would have seen coming. He kind of reminds me of Toby Fox in the lighthearted and yet deeply intentional way he tells his story, as well as the affectionate and humorous way he seems to engage with his audience, if his SBS corner or question and answer segments in the manga volumes are anything to go by. Over 1,120 manga chapters, contained in 109 manga volumes, over 1,115 episodes of anime, 15 movies and specials, and a Netflix show that managed to break the all anime live-action adaptations kinda suck curse. This is the legacy of One Piece. I know. Hearing those huge numbers has probably got you thinking, are you crazy, Bettina? There's no way I'm starting a series that long from scratch. That'll take forever. It's alright, I understand. I had the same hesitations when I first started my One Piece journey. I'll be honest with you, I didn't actually start watching One Piece a year ago. I first watched it way back when I was just a teenager, half a lifetime ago. I can't remember the exact date, but I think it had to have been around 2008 when the movie Speed Racer came out. It was likely around that time that I really became interested in anime and Japanese media and discovered all of Hayao Miyazaki's brilliant animated films. I forget how I came across One Piece and what drew me to it in the first place, but I loved the story from the beginning. Here's the long and short of it. This kid, Monkey D. Luffy, he wants to be king of the pirates. He doesn't know what he's doing or how dangerous his goal actually is, but he's here to have a good time and doesn't care what anyone else thinks. He makes friends and enemies everywhere he goes, and he's got stretchy rubber powers so he can beat people up really good. His rubber powers are probably also how he manages to eat so much food. His appetite is hilariously insane. This Luffy kid eventually makes himself captain of a deceptively humble crew, starting out with Zoro, the aspiring world's greatest swordsman with all of the skills to back that title up. Nami, the cheeky thief that has a knack for navigation and detecting weather patterns. Usopp, the fast-talking cowardly sniper who's the most ordinary human in the crew and therefore the most brave out of everyone. And Sanji, the kick-ass chef with a romantic heart who falls in love with nearly every female he comes across, but particularly Nami. Together they make up the Straw Hat Pirates, so called because of Luffy's iconic straw hat that is special to him because of reasons. And they do their best to avoid capture by the Marines and defeat all kinds of pirate villains along their way to find the legendary treasure known as the One Piece. This show was so much fun for me. It was colorful and felt like watching Looney Tunes. I laughed at the comedy and visual gags, related to the characters, and enjoyed all the action. Though I remember being annoyed at how long the battles took sometimes. But I distinctly remember having my brain chemistry changed forever when I first watched Nami the Navigator's backstory. Luffy and all of his friends have tragic childhoods, sure, but Nami's story was just something else, something special, because it straight up made me cry. You think you're watching a fun and goofy pirate story, and then you get sucker punched in the feels. I won't spoil what makes this backstory so sad, because it's best to go in as blind as you can, but trust me, you will cry too. If you don't cry, then you're probably not human and don't have a heart. Or maybe you shouldn't watch One Piece. It's not for you. However, many people point to this part of the series as the time when One Piece went from being just a good story to one of the greatest stories ever told. And I am one of those people. Anyway, soon after you see this whole backstory of hers, Nami finds herself in a pretty desperate situation, let's say, and even though she really doesn't want to, she asks Luffy to help her. And suddenly, this dumb, goofy, mostly carefree kid turns into the best, most loyal friend you could ever ask for. And he's making the most serious, I'm gonna kick your butt and there's nothing you can do about it face at his enemies. To everyone else's credit, the rest of Luffy's crew are just as loyal and badass as he is, even if they haven't known each other all that long. They risk their lives to save and protect Nami, even though they all have hopes and dreams they want to achieve, because Luffy is their captain, and they all love Nami as their friend. I don't know how long it took me to watch everything, but all of this was about 50 episodes of One Piece, and feeling very satisfied with the conclusion of Nami's story, I can remember looking up how many episodes were left for me to watch. If I'm right about starting to watch One Piece around 2008, I believe there turned out to be over 300 episodes left for me to see. I looked at that number and was like, whoa, that's gonna take me forever. Thanks, but no thanks. I think I'm satisfied with the story I got. I forget if it was just the big number alone that made me back off, or if I also learned that the story was still ongoing, so that number would only continue to grow and grow. So I believed it better to wait for the official conclusive ending. I also found it a little odd that after so many episodes, I was no closer to knowing what the legendary One Piece treasure was. Believe it or not, people still don't know what the treasure is supposed to be. And I think it'll be a long time yet before we get answers to that mystery. But we all have our theories. The only thing we know for sure is that
the One Piece is real!
As much as I'd come to love One Piece, I wasn't quite ready to follow them on their journey any further. It was enough for me to at least understand what all the hype was about. The timing wasn't right. There were other things I needed to do back then. So like Kobe, the first friend Luffy actually makes in his journey to becoming king of the pirates, I said farewell to the Straw Hat crew, and internally said, maybe I'll see you again at some point in the future, when I'm older and feeling braver. But thank you for coming into my life, because I'm happier just knowing that you exist. I know you're going to do great things in the world, and I'll be there rooting for you. Now let's fast forward to summer 2023, when I first heard that Netflix was making a live-action adaptation out of One Piece. I had barely even thought about this story for 15 years, but I remembered it fondly and hoped that they would do the franchise justice, but didn't have high hopes for it. After all, live-action adaptations of anime, especially Netflix adaptations, don't exactly have the greatest reputation or track record. Little did I know that this series was about to break that very curse and blow all my expectations out of the water. I was at a very interesting point in my personal life during this time. I'd passed 333,000 subscribers on this channel and announced a short hiatus starting in September. Months previously, I'd left my boyfriend of nearly a decade and had started a new relationship, even though I was about to leave the US to start an internship program abroad, so I could start learning about the podcasting business and explore a new career path. Why do I bring up all of this personal stuff in my One Piece video? Because if it weren't for this new boyfriend, I don't think I would have been as motivated to give One Piece another shot at the time I did. And if it weren't for me being abroad last year, this show probably wouldn't have been quite as impactful as it was for me. In spite of the long distance and drastic time difference, this new boyfriend, we'll call him Johnny, would proceed to text me every day that I was away, helping me feel like I wasn't so alone in the world. As I mentioned at the start of the video, Netflix released One Piece at the end of August, and I heard good things about it from Johnny, who was a lifelong fan of the anime since he was a kid, so knowing that the show met with his approval gave me great confidence that I would enjoy it myself. Because I was so busy, I wouldn't actually start watching the show until mid-September, but I managed to watch all 8 episodes in just 3 days. And like I said earlier, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe they'd managed to condense 50 episodes of anime into less than 8 hours on Netflix, and still have it turn out so amazing. But they did. Here's what I literally texted Johnny as I started episode 1, because I don't think I can sum up my reaction better than this. Lol, yeah, okay. Barely 5 minutes in and I'm already hyped. The background music and style of how everyone looks and how they filmed this is definitely going to hook me in. It really brings back that Pirates of the Caribbean spirit. Yep, this is how you do a live-action anime adaptation. Have fun with the action scenes and go over the top with the acting with all seriousness. I haven't seen a live-action anime adaptation have this much fun with itself since Speed Racer, lol. 5 minutes. That's all the time it took for me to become a fan. I could feel the spirit of love and joy and fun just oozing out of the show, from the convincing and relatable cast to the high attention to detail from the crew. And yes, even though I knew full well it was coming, I still cried when it came to Nami's backstory. It just hit me in a new way all over again watching as an adult. And come on, the acting from little girl Nami really sold it. Once I'd completed the series and saw it end at basically the same point I had left it in the anime all those years ago, I realized that I couldn't possibly wait around for Netflix to make season 2 to continue the story. I was finally ready to join the crew. The very next day, I went all the way back to the beginning of the anime, so I could get a fresh perspective on it. It took me 10 days to finish those original 50 episodes again, which make up the Romance Dawn arc. At that point, there were over 1,075 episodes of anime for me to catch up on, more than 3 times the amount I'd been threatened by the first time. But if I could watch 5 episodes a day, I knew I could finish the show in about 200 days, and that was less than a year. How hard could that be? I saw another 50 episodes in just a week, which meant I was averaging closer to 7 episodes a day. Catching up was going to be easy. I was enjoying the series even more, seeing all new parts of the story I'd never known about, like how Luffy and the crew make it to the Grand Line and make friends with a whale, and then soon after made friends with a couple of giants. And then they added a talking reindeer to their crew? What? I remember being somewhat aware of this weird cutesy little creature by pop culture osmosis, and being confused that this was supposed to be the Straw Hat's doctor. How was I supposed to take him as seriously as the rest of the Straw Hats? Long story short, I learned not to question Oda-sensei anymore, because he knows how to make you feel whatever he wants you to feel about his characters. And I fell in love with Chopper just as I fell in love with the others. And then, right as I got to the beginning of the Alabasta arc, where Luffy and the crew find themselves in a desert country in the middle of fighting a civil war, October 7 happened. When I announced my channel hiatus, I never mentioned where I was visiting abroad, but the truth is, I was in Israel. I was in Tel Aviv when I heard the sirens. I wasn't close to being in any real danger, thankfully, but the country was invaded and many innocent people were killed. Not just killed, some were kidnapped too. You may or may not have realized or put it together from my name, but I'm Jewish, and I have a lot of family living in Israel that I got to develop a deeper connection with while I was there. My only living grandma is there. I have aunts and uncles and cousins there, and a few of those cousins have very young kids. I won't sidetrack this video too much. I want to keep the subject on One Piece after all. But I just had to mention that this was happening around me, that I was right there while history was going on. And if you have anything to say about this topic, I hope you will put a lot of thought and care and kindness into your words. Anyway, I managed to finish the Alabasta arc about a week later. It served as a needed distraction. But by the end, I felt like taking a short break from the story, because it hit a little too close to home. I wish that Israel's conflict with Hamas was as easy to solve as having a hero like Luffy punch a single big bad guy, but it isn't. It wasn't until I returned to my home in Florida around Christmas time that my life finally went back to mostly normal. I returned to working on my YouTube channel, I got to see Johnny again after he'd been so worried about me from the other side of the world, and I finally got back to watching One Piece. Once I picked it back up, hardly a day would go by that I didn't watch a handful of episodes and text Johnny my fangirl reactions to the story, just as I'd always done. I didn't think the show could possibly surprise me anymore, but boy was I wrong. In January, I watched the Straw Hats explore an island floating in the sky and fight a dude claiming to be God. Then I watched them discover an island of long creatures and engage in a crazy pirate game called a Davy Back fight. Some people say that these two parts of the story are lame and skippable and call them filler arcs, but I have no idea what they're talking about. Why would anyone want to skip any part of One Piece? In February, I made a ton of progress. So much happened, I hardly know how to describe it all. I thought Water 7 was one of the coolest islands ever. It was like seeing fantasy Venice, Italy. Then there was Enies Lobby, and I cried harder for Robin's backstory than I had for Nami, and that was really saying something. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this gal Robin joined the crew after Alabasta. She used to work with the bad guys, but then she thought Luffy and friends were more cool and decided to tag along. I always felt suspicious of her, but she really grew on me and fully redeemed herself by the end. I also cried when, spoiler alert, the crew had to say goodbye to their first ship, the Going Merry. But no need to be too sad, because the Thousand Sunny turns out to be an even better Straw Hat ship. And Cyborg Frankie, who was responsible for building the Sunny, joins the crew. He's kind of a weirdo to me, but he fits right in with everyone else, so I can't complain. Then I saw the Thriller Bark arc, and I instantly fell in love with Brook the Skeleton Musician. I think I remembered learning about his character when I first got into the Undertale fandom, and saw some comics about Sans meeting Brook and other living skeleton characters in media, like Mystery Skulls and Nightmare Before Christmas and the Book of Life and other stuff. I think it was called Boneheads? Anyway, I loved this arc because it was all spooky and horror themed, and it tied all the way back to the whale friend Luffy made when they first entered the Grand Line. Plus it gave us the best pirate song ever written, Binks Sake. It sounds like I got pretty far into the show, right? Well, if you thought that, you'd be wrong. I wasn't even halfway done with the anime by the time March rolled around. In fact, Thriller Bark is probably where I would have ended up if I'd caught up with the show in 2008. March was insane. I went to Sabaody, where slavery still exists, Amazon Lily, the island of women, Impel Down, the prison island where Luffy attempts a jailbreak, and I saw the epic battle of Marineford, which felt like the One Piece equivalent to Avengers Endgame. Throughout all of these adventures, I was constantly on the edge of my seat, wondering how Luffy could possibly get himself out of such dangerous situations. Obviously, I knew he survived. There couldn't very well be 1,000 episodes of One Piece if the main character died in the middle. But still. However, I needn't have worried, because Luffy always finds a way. He's probably the most determined character I've ever seen in media. And I come from the Undertale fandom, so you know how much I admire determination. Finally, I made it to the 2-year time skip, and this probably makes a great time to transition to a new part. The crew reunites, and everyone is better and stronger and more OP than ever. We went to Fishman Island, then Punk Hazard, and then Dressrosa and Zao. I know I'm just throwing crazy random words at you, but I can't go into details without spoiling stuff and making this video longer than it probably already is. It was late April by this point, and unfortunately, I decided to say goodbye to Johnny. I still loved him, but felt we no longer worked as a couple. It was a much easier breakup than with my previous boyfriend. We'd only been together 1 year instead of 9, and we ended on good terms, so it didn't hurt as much, but it was still hard. He told me we were still friends and that even if I didn't stay with him, I should still stick it out with One Piece and continue to feel free to discuss the story with him, which I'm sincerely grateful for. I blasted through Whole Cake Island, which was probably one of my favorite arcs for the way it expanded on Sanji's backstory. And I have no idea how I did it, but I went through the entire Wano arc in just a couple of weeks. My god, I loved the art style change in this arc. The animation goes so hard. By the end of the Wano arc, I'd run out of English dubbed episodes and had to watch the rest of the anime in Japanese. But it wasn't a hard transition. All the characters had appropriate voices. Except for Frankie. I don't like his Japanese voice. Finally, I was officially all caught up with One Piece in mid-May, as we entered the Egghead arc, the beginning of Oda's final saga. If it hadn't been for my 2 to 3 month break at the end of 2023, I would have managed to finish this show in about 6 months. That's all you really need to do to get into and catch up to the One Piece anime. Just invest half a year of your life. It's not that hard, I promise. Ever since I ran out of episodes to watch and had to wait week to week like everyone else, I took to YouTube and started taking in all the theories and analyses of the series. I quickly realized that I should probably start reading the manga next, because most theories were discussing facts and events that I knew nothing about and wouldn't see in the anime for months to come. I downloaded the Manga Plus app and it only took me a couple of weeks to catch up to the current chapter at the time, which I think was 11:15. Let me tell you, reading One Piece is such a different experience from watching One Piece. But what I read was absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to see it all animated. Honestly, it would probably take a lot faster for you to read the manga than to see the anime, since the fights and action scenes probably don't stretch quite so long. I nearly forgot to mention that while I was watching the anime, I was so determined to be a One Piece completionist that I watched every single feature-length film and special that was released, except the ones that were basically compilations or retellings of the actual story, and I watched them according to the year they were released when the anime episodes came out. A lot of these movies are okay for you to skip and aren't necessarily canon to the official story, but I loved them because it showed me that no matter where this crew went, or what they did, and what new characters they teamed up with or went up against, they were always entertaining and in character. There's a couple of movies I highly recommend if you just want to see what this world and these characters are like, and if it's something that you'd enjoy. There's Baron Omatsuri and the Secret Island, which has a really fun and different fluid art style compared to the regular anime, though be warned, the story gets really dark in the second half. And One Piece Film Gold, where the crew basically goes to a casino island and takes part in a giant heist. There's nothing else quite like One Piece, and there will probably be nothing like it ever again. I can't think of any story that has gone on for so long, that is still beloved by so many, with literally hundreds of creative and memorable characters, each with amazing skills and powers and fully realized personalities. I wish I understood the Japanese language and culture better, because then I'd be able to pick up on even more stuff, like Oda-sensei's clever puns and wordplay, and his literary and historical references, and his consistent skill in foreshadowing what is to come that just gets lost in translation. I genuinely believe that there is no better time for people to get into One Piece than this current era. The manga has just recently come to what feels like the conclusion of the Egghead arc, because we already know the crew's next destination, Elbaf, the Island of Giants, and this arc has been hyped by the fandom for a very long time, so I'm super excited to see what Oda has in store for us. Also, we've got season 2 of the Netflix show being filmed and worked on as we speak, with plenty more seasons likely to come. Not sure when it'll come out, most likely sometime next year in 2025, but it will be exciting to see how the writers and actors and effects people interpret the next part of the One Piece story. Also, it was recently announced that we're even getting a complete anime reboot called The One Piece, which will have a whole new art style and voice cast, and hopefully will fix a lot of the pacing issues and have a much better idea of where the story is going than what the current anime did. No one knows yet when that will be released, but I'll happily go on the entire adventure again if it means I get to spend more time with these lovable pirates in this beautiful, magical, and exciting world that contains giants and dwarfs, dragons and mermaids, and angels and ogres. I've clearly spent a long time singing One Piece's praises. That doesn't mean I think it's perfect or without flaws. One Piece is definitely a lot, and goes into some dark themes and territories. There's slavery and abuse and genocide and lots of terrible things, but there's also hope and magic and mystery and people fighting for their dreams and what's right. One Piece is a hell of a roller coaster ride, and not everyone is into roller coasters, and that's okay. I just hope that I've convinced some of you to join me as I wait in that long weekly line before strapping myself in for a new chapter and/or episode almost every Sunday. To wrap up, here's the takeaway from this humble fan's experience. One Piece taught me that no matter how terrible things may seem in your life, you have to keep trying and fighting, and not let anyone stop you from fulfilling your ultimate life goals, whatever they might be. No matter what your background is or what weird quirks you have that you might like or dislike about yourself, there are people out there waiting to be your friend who will be thrilled to have you in their group. It might take a while, but you will find your family, your crew, your nakama. Believe it or not, even someone like me feels alone in the world sometimes. I have friends all over the world, but I wish I had a group of friends I could go out and have fun adventures with in real life and pursue a common goal. Right now, I'm sailing solo, still looking for my own nakama, but until then, I will continue to support Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates, and stay determined. Thank you, Oda-sensei, for giving us One Piece, and thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment letting me know if you'd like me to make more videos talking about One Piece or any other topics that bring me joy. Until next time, Bettina out.